All right, 3:39 on the 5th of April. Nice, warm, beautiful day outside. So under my ongoing theme of redoing everything that I didn't like from the beginnings, move these panels. I am going to take out these and probably use them for bicycle stuff in the future. I don't typically need solar panels on the bike when I'm just going into town, but if I go further than Sierra Blanca, then I'm going to want solar. Anyway, so that will mean that will get pulled out, all of that wire, and then it goes across all the way to the house. And that is 2 runs of 10 gauge wire that I can reuse. These 6 panels are facing towards the east for the morning sun. So those are facing east and west. There's another set right behind it, back to back. I'll either have 6 panels facing east that are picking up the sun, and then the other ones really aren't in the sun. And then as the sun comes more to the south, it'll hit these ones, and then it'll be kind of going out of sun on the other panels. And then as the sun gets towards sunset, it'll pick up the last panels. So the 3 sets of panels on the same wire isn't really a big deal because they aren't all hitting at the same time. All right. So I just kind of piggybacked them off of this wire for now. I now have all 4 lithium batteries in here. So this is the ultimate goal, has been to get back to one unified system instead of 2 or 3 parallel systems. So I've got all of the panels except for those flex panels going into all 4 lithium batteries. And it's all unified again, and then it's feeding 1 inverter. So I'll have 2 charge controllers feeding into 4 batteries and 1 inverter, and all of that will be in the house. So then this box will probably go away. This will look remarkably the same, except these are all lithium batteries now. I was going to say they're cleaner, but it's been so windy lately. And I just swept this box out. I mean, not super good, but pretty good. And there's already dust and stuff, and then mouse turds everywhere already. Yeah, anyway. So that's a 1500 watt inverter, the Windy Nation. And I've got 1 more of that MPPT, the kind of gray looking one up here. So I've got 1 more of that, so I'll have 2 matching ones. I think they're about matching. So I'll have 1 for the black, 1 for everything else. Get rid of this little Harbor Freight one. Put it back in the box for later. The last part of this project, which was why it took me so long to get started on it, it was frankly kind of overwhelming, so I had to break it down into pieces. I've got a wire out here for the generator. So if I had to run the generator, I would have to shut off the inverter and hit a couple switches and then run the generator. And that generator wire goes all the way back into the house. And that's actually the same wire that runs the inverter to the house. So I'm going to be sitting with those wires coming out here. They don't need to be doing that anymore. And I've also got 1 DC wire from here to the house. That was how I ran DC lights and stuff. So I'm trying to decide, is it worth the trouble digging all of that out? Because it's not going to do anything out here anymore. And I don't want to leave a wire that's coming out here for no reason, because then eventually the rats will chew through it. I figure if I go 5 or 6 inches deep, that'll be plenty. Once the sand packs down around the pipe, running over it with a bicycle isn't going to break it anymore. So. All right, that'll do it for that one. Well, it's always nice when it does eventually work. So, I made a mark on the wall about how high I want it to go. And then we'll go nothing worse than being a couple feet too short, but that should do it. Okay. 4 o'clock, let's just kind of bag it here. Actually, while we're here, what we will do, I'll kind of just tidy that up a little bit. I'm going to bury it and leave the little thing sticking up. That I can do tomorrow. I was very reluctant to drill a hole in the house today because I wasn't sure how it was going to go. And I'm like, I don't want to leave a hole that I don't have time to fix. Mice will crawl in because they do. So we'll bury this. And then on the opposite end, what I was doing here, I put a piece of tape around one pair, which is the bottom pair. That's going to go to the silver panels, and the top set is going to what I call the big black panels. So the silver is that. Silver comes up this pipe into here, and for temporary, I just kind of bop that across, and good enough for now. And then tomorrow, I will take what this wire is, put a new wire, and that'll be this wire, and that'll go to the house. Then I can move all of the stuff into the house. I was kind of hoping to do it today, but I just really wasn't feeling it. I figured, well, if I just work it a little bit at a time, I try to leave things in a good state, because invariably something will happen and I won't get back to this for 3 days, so. Sit rep. Box is empty and disconnected from everything. Get this thing moved, put it inside, get things wired up, and then I'm going to work on pulling out all this wire that's out here. Roll it up and save it for another day. Nobody home. That's okay. There's a serious hole under there though. They have been digging. It's just covered with spider webs and probably eggs and this was the hidden detail, right? I had always planned on running 8 deep cycle batteries. I never had more than 4. But by putting the 2x4s like that, it made it a lot stronger bottom. And I didn't want it laying right down flat on the ground, or else I figured the wood would have rotted faster. So I think that worked out pretty good. This is why I built 4-foot doors. Alright, as it sits, I'm hitting the back wall and I'm sticking out a couple inches too far. It hits the door here. It would hit the door less or not at all if I moved it that way. But my cabling is kind of limited. I want it as close to this wall as I can because that's where I'm going to put the charge controllers. So on this west wall where the door is. But one of the times I tried to keep the mice out of here, I added this lip on both sides, or all the way around, and that would let the door or the lid sit a little bit flusher. That adds a couple inches, so if I take that off, we should be good. Yeah, so that's what we're going to do. I took the trim off all the way around the top, and the door hits the battery box just before it hits the workbench, which is fine. I got about 95% open. That's completely all I need. So I'll take that for the win. Otherwise, I'd have to rebuild the box, and I don't want to do that. Well, almost 5 o'clock. I've been offline for most of the afternoon, but I've had the chargers working for a while already. So the chargers are on the wall, and I put these screw terminals so they can disconnect. So it goes like from the outside is 2 sets of panels, and it comes into the screw terminal and then back out to the charge controller. So all I got to do is loosen up a screw and drop a terminal, and then I can disconnect one side, which is nice. And then all of the outputs from both charge controllers meet on this screw terminal. Then I only have one lead going down to the battery. So charge controller 1, 2, battery and house, that gives me the DC. So for instance, I can see a voltmeter up here. That's the radio that I used to have in my Jeep. I don't want to go into setup now probably. Yeah, so we won't do that right now. Anyway, I've got like every freaking light turned on. Batteries are in the box, and I just grabbed a random shelf and laid it across the box for now. And you just have the inverter sitting on top of the box. And then the white wires go up. Basically think of them as one is red and one is black going into the, I don't know, split phase 220, whatever. So I've got half the breakers are red, half the breakers are black. And that's good. So I've got, it's one inverter feeding both sides of the house. Okay. I wired the house for 220. Eventually I'll get one of those really fancy inverters that can do 220, and I'll be ready for it. But the most important thing, the green light that says correct. That's my plug-in tester. But now, end of the day, I come back here and I can just shut it off. And if I want, I can look at my charge controllers and see what's going on without going outside. So that's pretty cool. I think 3 of these that are dead now. It's like, yeah, you kind of have to work in the dark when you're doing electric, so you got all your flashlights. I gotta say, a lot of people don't like Harbor Freight. This is one of the best flashlights ever. It's got a low and a high and an off. Off is important. And I'm running just the little battery. It's the same battery that my new drill uses. Also the same batteries I started the bicycle trip on last year. Yeah. Anyway, so I got the little battery for the flashlight. That runs so long. I'm just like, it's really just a great light for like living off grid. You always need a flashlight to go look around outside once in a while or something. That thing is awesome. Okay, anyway. Yeah, on the previous setup, I had used some of my yellow and black extension cord for these, but I didn't want to run stranded wire as the input for the breaker box. Now, if you're really paying attention, the whole house is wired yellow for 12 gauge for 20 amp service, and I just wired 2 whites 14 gauge for 15 amp service as the inputs. It's a 2000 watt inverter. I never run 2000 watts. So, we'll just try to keep that in mind. Originally, from the outside breaker box, I had ran these orange wires, which are red-black 10 gauge for 220. That would have been better, but then that is just a pain in the butt to work with. It's just that much harder to bend. And yeah, it took me a whole bunch of fiddling around to make it work last time. So I thought, you know what? I do not have any more. I lied. I've got about 2 feet of yellow left over from the house. I wired the whole house yellow, except for one circuit, which is like for the bedroom, which is all the same room. But yeah, anything that's big is on 12 gauge for 20 amp service, which this could handle it, 2000 watts. But since I don't spend a lot of time with my blow dryer anymore, I don't have to worry about it. It's bright outside. It is gorgeous today. Okay, so I've got all of this left over. This is the Windy Nation 1500 watt inverter. It works fine. I'm just not going to use it anymore. These wires are just trashed. So the new inverter has much bigger wires, and it seems to work good too, so I'll just use it. I'll keep this for a hot spare if I need it. All of the rest of my stuff. Oh, the mouse traps I don't need in the battery box anymore because there's no mice supposedly in the house. This was interesting. Poison for the mice, completely empty. In fact, they've chewed the sides of it trying to figure out how to get in to get the last of it, but there's nothing left in there. They got all of it. So, yeah, there should be some dead mice around here, but I haven't seen any. Maybe they just wander off and get eaten. So I think I will probably just rake a little bit here to smooth that out tomorrow, not today anymore. I gotta pull this wire and this wire out. That's the other end of the orange cable that used to run the power from the battery box to the house. So I disconnected that at the breaker box and taped it off and pulled it out, so it's not being used anymore. that was what I was also using. I could run the generator through it, but I haven't ran the generator in over a year. So, at least for the house. I've used it for welding, but not for the house. So, and then this was the DC feed to the house, and I've disconnected it. I had kind of a junction box for DC in that utility box there. Another one of the trailer boxes. So I had a DC feed from the battery box to there, from there to the house, from there to the bus. So now it should be the one from the battery box in the house should run the DC lights for the bus. We'll check that just in a minute. Didn't get to use my snake stick. That's a good day. And then, yeah, this is what I used to have to go from the inverter. This is just a Harbor Freight. It's a pretty good cord. I think it's 12 gauge, if I remember right. I doubt that'll show up. Yeah, 12 gauge. So this was a 12 gauge cord that I chopped into little pieces, but these are too short to go between the breaker box and the inverter. So I'm like, I wanted to use those again, but too short. I'll save that. That'll be a good thing for something else. And then this was the generator cord, so I'll save that. I think eventually what I would like to do, set up a spot either coming off of the house, or I could maybe do it in the utility box there, where I could hook up a generator, and then I've got all the, when I pull this out, there's a good chunk of 20 feet of 10 gauge wire that I could reuse to hook up a generator lead to. So if I thought I needed the generator, I could just leave it here, maybe put a post here and then set it up, but I don't really need it right now. Plus it's not connected to the house anymore. So I might go back and add that later. All right, let's do one last thing. I just wanted to see the DC lights, and the bus should still work. All right. I don't smell any smoke. I did check the circuits in here, so if I heard work lights. Yep. That is the bus dome lights, and I just wired a circuit to it. Cool. Now I can do that. Okay. I don't spend a lot of time over here anymore, but this was a really good workstation for when I was writing. I might start using it again. This was supposed to be the robot workstation. That kind of didn't go anywhere. I might come back to that. I have got a whole box, plus now more, of chunks of wire that I've pulled out, and I bought a whole 300 feet for this job. And then I ended up able to reuse a lot of the pieces, so that helped a lot. So now I've got a full 100 and two half empty spools. And here's the flex panels from the bike. I took them down just a little bit ago. Yeah, okay. All right, put the camera away and pick everything up, and then I can... Oh, there's our bunny. Hey, bunny. Under the wheelbarrow. That's a terrible place to hide. My water for a shower, if I hurry up, that'll still be nice and warm. Sometimes if you're quiet, they'll walk right out and forget you were there. I've had days minding my own business, sitting still, doing something outside. Bunny walked right up to you. That's just fun. Alright, so it begins. So what we've got here, we got this conduit here that has 12-volt wiring, and this one here was actually wired for 220. I never did 220, but I had two phases of 110. So I figured to be extra safe, I did two sets of conduit to keep them separate, plus the that big orange 10 gauge wire pretty much filled up the 1-inch conduit. It was hard to pull anything more than that through there. So I'm going to pull this out, and I'll save the wire for later. Also, that'll get me back some pieces of conduit that I could use for some other project, but don't really need them right now. So Want to get some work in progress here. It's not super hard digging, but it's been a couple of years since I did this, so it's the ground is packed down pretty well for me walking through here all the time. So I actually dug it deeper than I thought. It might be almost a foot deep. I'm not sure why I did it that deep, but the newer stuff didn't go that deep. And then pull the dirt out. And once I got the pipe exposed, I should be able to lift up on the pipe. So there's no reason to go any deeper than that. As soon as I get the pipe out, then I'll just bury it again. One of these comes up, let's see if we can see it, that white elbow about middle of the frame, and then the other one goes under the box and then comes up on the inside. At least that area never got packed down. That's something. Alright, that's it for now. Thanks for watching. Hopefully you got some useful ideas there. I've not been talking about this very much lately, but my main source of income has been these YouTube videos. The actual money I make from the ads is quite small. What actually keeps me going is a few people that are helping me out over on Patreon or YouTube members. Just a few bucks every month would sure make a huge difference. So if you get anything out of my content, there's a link down below, or I'll put it up on screen. You can help me out through Patreon, which is a monthly subscription. You can also do YouTube members, or you can just throw me a buck on PayPal once in a while. It all helps. Thank you very much. Bye for now.